Yo, what's going on, guys? We got Marvel Yap episode number 8 today. We're going to be going over the brand new cards coming out in the Symbiote season today, as well as a brief overview of this OTA that just happened, and we are also being giving you a review of Activate from this past Spider-Man season. Well, let's go ahead and jump right into it. And always, we are joined with the hostess with the mostest, notmydance. How are we doing today, Dance?
I'm doing great. What is it? I'm not gonna lie to you. I know I've been not playing a lot of Snap. I've been actually kind of in New Zealand as of late. I don't know if you've been there.
I have been in New Zealand as well and been having a blast, little vacation when my VPN allows it. It's really funky.
Yeah,
sometimes.
I have a Vaporeon too.
Yeah,
right? That's what VPN stands for.
Yes,
Vaporeon.
Yes. Vaporeon. You just make it condense it a lot more, so it's easier.
Exactly. Yeah. No. The Vaporeon's been very helpful. But it's been a lot of fun. It's been very fresh because the meta in Snap hasn't felt that fresh. Mm-hmm. So it's felt like a very fun diversion for the time being, which is, it's weird. We're talking about another game inside of a Marvel Snap podcast, but like, it's been so much fun. I don't know. I've been going straight a lot into the stuff. I've been having a blast with that. It's been very simple to figure that game out. And I've never, because you haven't done anything with like Pokemon before, like the actual card game, right?
I never played the TCG. I have collected a lot of Pokemon cards, like physical cards, and like I have them in binders and stuff, but I never learned the mechanics of the game itself.
Yeah. No, I never collected them. I just never did that stuff. My friends did, and I knew about a lot of the characters, but I've just never done it. I've never done like the video games either, like any of that in general. So it's been a really welcome experience to just try a game or just jump into an IP completely blind. Like I've said it before, I love IPs, and IPs get me. Marvel Snap got me because Marvel. Mm-hmm. Marvel Rivals got me with that. They're hooking me because of the gameplay, right? But like I think I've told you before, maybe I've said on the app, but currently like Fortnite, right? It's a Marvel season. It's getting me because there's just so much. I'm a sucker for an IP. I always have been. I always will be. And it's cool to play this without any knowledge of any sort of the IP in general, and just being like, I know this character, and just being like, this guy, right? And just trying to figure out exactly all the ways everything works. Which is, it's like a dumbed down version of original Pokemon, but it's meant to be quicker. I've heard it said that you can play a Pokemon Pocket game in the time your opponent typically takes to play a real turn inside of a legitimate Pokemon game. So I have no idea of the aspect on any of that stuff, but at least on the mobile version, it's been a lot of fun. It's been cool to jump into that bit. But what's your experience been with Pocket so far?
I really love the Pocket. I think everyone was going into Pocket, and it's just to collect them all. And there is a really great immersive collective experience, and there is definitely the endorphin boost when you get the card you've really been looking for, or you hit something really cool. But I like how it kind of is a dumbed down version of the TCG from what I've heard. I've never played the physical TCG, but this has me interested in kind of learning it. And like Dance was saying, it is going to be more like a 5 to 8 minute long game opposed to like a 3 minute long game you do with Snap. But it's going to be really interesting to see how that impacts Snap. I'm hoping that this pushes Second Dinner to put more into Snap and to kind of push it more and try and add more features and everything too, and really ramp it up. Because like Dan was saying earlier too, like with the meta right now, I don't hate the meta right now. I just feel like I'm playing the same decks over and over again. That's what I'm just having the least fun with. It's not that I'm hating what I'm facing. It's I'm getting bored of what I'm facing.
Yeah. And I think that's honestly what I'm excited about for this upcoming season of Snap, which we'll be talking about here in a second. But like, I think I'm excited about that because it's going to feel like, I don't know, even if a lot of the cards aren't game breaking, they don't change the game the way that like Symbiote Spider-Man did. Not the Symbiote Spider-Man variant that you have on the screen right now, even though that one's gorgeous, but the actual Symbiote Spider-Man card, which by the way, I've seen people getting confused about those two, or buying one and being like, it's not confused over the other, which I do find hilarious. Yeah. But it's been, that card, I think this card really changed a lot of the way Snap works. I think we'll talk about that probably later today.
Yep.
But it's interesting how I think next season isn't going to change the game, but it's just going to add, it feels like almost every single week you're getting a new piece that's like, hey, this is a great card for this archetype. Hey, this is a great card for this archetype. Like, they're just going to be good pieces. And I don't know if they're going to be the most flexible pieces, but they're going to be a lot of fun. But I don't know. Do you want to do before we actually go into that? Do you want to say like what we're talking about, like the actual thing, or actual topics we're going to be trying to go for today before we jump into them fully?
Yeah, so Dan's gave you a nice little preface of what we're pretty much doing. As you guys can see here on the YouTube at the bottom of the screen, and then all of our audio listeners, which shout out to you guys as well. We're going to be going over the Symbiote season, which does start today as this podcast goes live. We're going to be going over all the cards, and then we're also going to be going over the last OTA, I say with quotation marks, that we had last week. And then we're going to be talking about is Activate good and our thoughts of it. I think we had some good thoughts beginning of the season. Now looking at it now, seeing the impact it's having on the meta. And then, of course, yeah, we're going to be breaking down all the new cards for you guys. And I think that's the general gist of what we got going on today.
Yeah, no, I'm excited about the new cards, though. I feel like they're going to be a lot of fun. And then, I mean, even on the Pocket front, we'll say, I don't want Pocket to kill Snap. I just want I just want competition in the field, and I feel like we haven't had that currently. And I think that a new player on the field, another strong IP. I think isn't Pokemon like the strongest IP in the world or something like that? I feel like I would say that statistic before. So I am down for a really strong IP to fight for this slot. I don't want Snap to just get ruined, but I'd rather just for us to be like, okay, both are cool, just both are good. I want them both to like fight for each other, and not even fight, but just like push each other to be better. You know, I don't know the correct phrasing on that, right? But I'm excited in general.
Yeah, it's going to be a good month because Pod comes out at the end of the month. The new season ends. We don't have a whole lot of info on the November season 2 to the impact that this Pocket game might have as well. So hopefully, like we're saying, it pushes. They see what's happening with on New Zealand stuff. But what if we...
I'll say before we jump into that, sorry, I just will say, yes, we're playing, people are playing Pokemon Pocket because of a Vaporeon that allows you to get access, because currently the game is only available inside of New Zealand until October 30th, 31st, yes, 30th. Pokemon Pocket. So until that day, it's in a limited release. It's common for a lot of games. Apparently, like Marvel Snap only first came out in the Philippines, is what it was, something like that. And then it went worldwide. So it's a very common thing for people to do, and it's... we're just seeing that right now with Pocket, and that's how people are playing it as of late. But everyone will be at that chance, and I think it's only available iOS, Android at the start.
Yes, I think some people are using emulators, but I don't know how to do the emulation kind of thing.
Me neither. Yeah. All right. Pocket aside, let's actually talk about Marvel Snap.
All right, we're going to be jumping into the Season Pass card to start off the topics for today, which is going to be Agent Venom. Dance, what are your initial thoughts on this card right now? Reading over the ability, which is set the power of all cards in your deck to 4.
So the fact that this card it's a 2-cost 4-power card, and the fact that Bast exists at a 1/1 directly next to it, like, it's just one of those like power creep question mark. I'm just gonna say, like, I even think you can put. I want to use honestly both in the same deck, and I'm probably wrong there, but I want to use both in the same style of deck. But I feel like it definitely feels like this is just like going to be a good card. I think that in this, it'll be very similar to the decks that you use Bast in as of late. Probably not Bounce is the only one I would really say. I don't think Agent Venom's going to do the most in. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think Agent Venom in general is a card I'm super stoked for, and I really want to play with. I've been over the last week. I think the deck I've played the most is a deck that literally just has an empty slot for Agent Venom. It's just like a Mysterio Patriot Iron Man deck right now that I've been doing so much with, and I've been having a blast. And as I'm playing this, I'm like, boy, I wish there was a more consistent. I wish I had, maybe just 2 options in this deck to bring everything up to it, everything's power up. Either, everything goes 3 or everything goes 4, and I'm fine with it. I want it. I'm so excited for this card.
Yeah, this card I think is like one of those cards I was talking about either last week or you guys may have seen on stream. Is like, it really adds innovation to deck building. I think the Patriot package you're talking about is where my head went to, like originally, as well. I was thinking that Cozy was talking about Iron Patriot, and that's also like where my headspace went. I was thinking some Pixie ongoing Patriot things as well, like just getting that. Like, you can also use this in a Ravona list as an alternate line. Because the way Agent Venom works, Ravona doesn't look at base power, it looks at current power. So if you're using this, if you're not drawing your Ravona, if you do have your Iron Man and your Mystiques kind of thing, because that doesn't affect it that way. I think it can work in Bounce. You're not bouncing Agent Venom, but you're still potentially bouncing your other stuff. Hood getting 4 power is a 7-point power swing, which is crazy.
So good. I'm so stoked. That's one of the biggest ones. Yeah.
And then like the Mysterios too, you're dropping a 12 power 2-drop spread across 3 lanes. It's a mini Doom, which is
And
really
then if you
cool.
have Patriot, that goes to 16.
Yeah. It's crazy.
It's so good.
Patriot goes to and like they talked about this on the Snapcast today. They talked about, Blue Marvel goes to a 5-4. Your Patriot would be a 3-5. Like it's a 3-5 Patriot. Like the value is just crazy.
I will say, I saw from, I want to say Guest was talking about this. Guest, and it brought up with synergy I hadn't considered, Thanos.
Yes, I
because
can see it.
It's only the cards in your deck, and Thanos is in your hand. That's every single stone getting buffed by at least 3 points typically.
Yeah,
and that's a bit. You can go for Blob. You can throw Blob in that list. I saw him throwing that with again the Iron Man, the cheap, the cards that have a very low set of power base, and that works really well. And it actually works with Thanos like always starting in your hand, because then it never hits Thanos, and Thanos is always going to be fine from that. But Agent Venom is going to take care of everything. It's a lot of really cool stuff.
You do, honestly, I think you do some ongoing lists. I think if you go Thanos ongoing again, you could do the Mockingbird stuff, but like if you wanted to do the Mockingbird stuff with this, you have to play Luke Cage. So like that would be something that goes hand in hand. So I think with most of the deck building, you're trying not to have to play Luke Cage in most situations. But the Thanos, I think, is cool. I've heard people talk about Destroy. Destroy would be interesting. Of course, you don't want your Death to get 4 power, but Deadpool starting out at a 4 power, X-23 4 power, like starting the ramp off that way is actually pretty good. I just think like this is going to be in either some mini movers as well. Your Human Torch starting off at 4 power, Dagger starting off at 4 power. Like it's a card that I think Kosha said it best. It feels great when you have it on curve. Doesn't feel as good when you don't have it on a curve. There are certain instances where it's like you can play it off curve and it'll be okay because you look at what's left in your deck. Kind of like with Pixie too. Like Pixie, you're like, okay, I have to play Pixie on 2. Sometimes it's like, okay, well, I have this situation. It's a 50-50. I might draw a 0-cost Goliath, or maybe it'll be a 6-cost Wasp. Who knows? But it'll really be just like knowing your deck and knowing what you have left, kind of if you want to play this later on instead of just on curve.
Yeah, no, I just think Age of Venom is going to be a great card. I love how open it is. I think it's a very simple way to say it. And it's one of the things that I like personally more about this card than I did about like Symbiote Spider-Man. Symbiote Spider-Man felt very narrow because of where he was. And even with like Gwenpool felt very open. And so did Kate Bishop, right? Because they have all the options for what they can do. Agent Venom is a very open card. He fits in a lot of places, and I think that's one of the best. I think if you either want a card like that to be very open and to be able to fit into a lot of decks as a good season pass card, or you want a card, honestly, like Zemo, where it just enables one deck really efficiently, and then it does a good job there, and you can't do that without Baron Zemo, and that's fine. Like I think either one of these two situations where it's like Agent Venom, Baron Zemo, I like those situations where we have season pass cards in comparison to, again, what we have in this current season, or even just some of the other past ones where it just feels very limited and narrow in what you can do with it. So I'm excited about this card in general.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a fun card. I do think comparing it to like Gwenpool and to like Kate Bishop, those cards are still flexible, but I think they're a little bit easier to play. I think Agent Venom, you kind of still have to think a little bit more when you're playing him in a deck, and the skills curve's a little bit different. But I think it's going to be a fun card, and I can't wait to see what people do when they're testing with him.
That's an interesting question. Like, right, it's a season pass, so anyone who puts $10 they can get this. I agree with you. I think it's a very like thinky card.
Yeah,
is that a bad thing?
I don't know necessarily if it's a bad thing, but I think we're gonna get questions a lot of the times about this on stream, and I think holistically for the state of the game, we want it, or the devs want it to be more for casuals, and to me, this doesn't really feel like a casual card.
That's a really interesting like way to think about it. I hadn't thought about. I wonder if that's gonna be a problem. Like legitimately, I have not thought about that with Agent Venom, and so it's been a situation. So up until now, I've been like, yeah, it's great. Legitimately, and it's not insulting. I'm trying not to be insulting. If you guys are like, this is a rough card. Like I don't like the way this looks. It makes me feels too complicated. I get it. Sure, no, I get this. There are people who just want to sit down on the toilet, play this game, and call it a day. That's it.
Yep.
But like, actually, is this too? This is such an open card. Is this too difficult or complicated? Not even. It's not even saying complicated because it's not. It just does exactly what it does. But is this going to be a card that's like a problem for new players, for people who are trying to understand the game.
That's why I think we look at the Zemo season. I think we see everyone did not like playing Zemo because you had to do the Zemo missions in order to do all the stuff. Yes, Mill felt great, at that point because they actually got a final part. But like, it's going to be really interesting to see, like you said, how this impacts the game overall. And if this does impact the game in a way, does it help people transition more to other games that might be coming out later because they didn't like the way this month started?
There were some game we were talking about.
So it'll be interesting, but enough talk about Asian Venom. Gameplay will be freaking everywhere tomorrow when the season pass comes out. And to follow up on the same day as Agent Venom comes out, we do have Scream. Scream is going to be a 2/2. When an enemy card moves, steal 2 power from it. Parentheses, once per turn. What are you thinking about Scream, Dance?
It's the third stealing card, right? And I feel like the first 2 cards have been great, right? You've had Cassandra Nova, Insane, Silver Sable's just been a good card. And so now Scream's coming out here, the third steal. They're bringing a new. It's not even a keyword. It's kind of keyword. I don't know what you want to say with it, but it's a new way to basically say that you're taking power from a card and then adding it to herself, right? So every single time an enemy card moves, returns a 2. She can go from a 2/4 to a 2/6, so on and so forth. I like this card a lot. I am really worried that we are overhyping it. I'm not gonna lie, because it's only the once per turn is a big thing, and you have to play it on turn 2 typically, unless there's some way to get it out on turn 1. So 9 times out of 10, you're gonna get 4 steals with it the whole game.
At most, you can get 4 steals.
Yeah, maybe you get one the same turn if you play a card and then they maybe Ghost Spider or something like that, or like I don't know, something like that. But it's just in general, at most, I feel like you're actually only getting 4. Maybe you're getting 5, or sorry, you're getting 4 steals. So in total, 8 power, 10 power, which is still late, right? It's a 2/10, 2/12. Solid stats on it, but I really like. I'm stoked with this card. I just feel like as a whole, the community's a bit overhyped on this.
Yeah, I think this card definitely, like, there's still a lot of move going on. I don't think it literally, stops move or is a huge counter to move. I think it's a good card. I think if you do, a card does move. Like, what's really cool about Scream is she gets the 2 power, that card loses 2 power. So, like, that transaction is a total of 4 power overall. True. So if there is, 4 moves after Scream is played, that's actually 16 power distributed across the board. I mean, 8 power onto Scream and then 8 power taken away from your opponent's cards, which can add up, which is interesting. I'm going to be really interested to see what happens first. So like if a Human Torch moves, if Human Torch doesn't get the double and Scream takes the power first and Human Torch becomes a 0 power, then it's an even crazier impact on Scream and makes her even better. So it's going to be really interesting to see how that works.
I think it would steal first based off of Fisk Tower, if I'm not mistaken. I think Fisk Tower steals first and then the card resolves or whatever. So there's a question of however that might actually work here. But in general, I want to say when I'm saying overhyped on the card, I'm still hyped with the card, but I just want to, I feel like people are talking about this the 5-star card. I see this being a solid 4, whatever, right? It's a good card. I'm just trying to taper expectations a little bit because I love the idea of this card. I honestly want to see something with this, with I want Stegron to be usable, bro. I want my Steggy. I want Steggy. I'm not even gonna lie to you.
Okay.
I got a Stegron card back for a reason. I want to use that, and I'm gonna use it here, and I'm stoked for that. But I'm trying to pull it back and just be like, at least 2 enablers, right? You have Kingpin, who is consistent, works every single time, doesn't gain any power though. And then you'll have Scream, who only works once per turn, but then also is anywhere, but still, but then also gets they have drawbacks. Part of me wanted to say power creep, but at the same time, I think that it's going to be, I think it's going to be legitimately fine in how power creep, or not even power creep, right? I think it's just going to be different options for each. I think each one is going to work separately, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, and I think even with Kraven, I think you could just target the moves into the Kraven lane. I think what I really like is, 3/5 is the typical stat line you're seeing for 3-cost cards now. I think the Polaris value is what I'm really looking at when it comes to this card. Yeah. Yes, there's a Spider-Man value, but what I like about Polaris And even like you're saying, like with Stegron and stuff, you target where that move goes. And I think that is extra value when it comes, like, especially this game. You know, if you do Polaris on curve, that turns Polaris into a 3-7 in a sense, or a 3-9 in a sense, because it's buffing Scream and it's taking the power away from the other card.
Yeah.
So like I'm
going
looking
positive
at this,
of 9 power on a singular turn.
like I'm looking at this transactionally when it comes to Scream, kind of like how you would with Cassandra or you would with Sable too. But the difference is these cards are already on the board, so you're getting that value immediately. And if you're only hitting a couple cards as well, like you can do some Affliction stuff with Ajax. You can do some Affliction stuff with like High Evo. Like it's gonna be cool to kind of see this affect other areas of the game. I think it's definitely an Affliction card because I mean it has the steel text and everything too. But I like that side of it. I think everyone's thinking move disrupt. But like you go to like the Ajax side of things too. Let's say you just played a goblin and you Ghost Spider a goblin. That goblin would become a -5 powered goblin after that with the Scream value too. Like,
dude, Kate Bishop gives you the grapple arrow and the acid arrow in
So-
hand. I'm just saying No, I feel like because I actually had a list I was trying to run that, like, I think earlier this season where it was, what was it? You were using Kingpin, but you were just going with like the move cards in order to disrupt. And the more I played with it, it's just I feel like I've had so many decks lately where I'm like, oh, this needs that card that's coming out. As soon as this card comes out, it's gonna be that it just needs that piece. And that's the stuff I'm most excited for about this season, where it's maybe not the craziest cards in the world, but each of these cards that are being added in this season are doing something that are going to enable an archetype, a deck that I don't feel like is particularly one of the best ones. And I love that. And she's also going to be coming in a spotlight with Man-Thing and Mobius.
yes.
Not really two like crazy cards. Man-Thing's solid, right? Man-Thing's at least I think a good card. And I think maybe Mobius we'll see being used at the end of the month when we talk about Anti-Venom.
And Toxin.
But in general,
well, Toxin doesn't reduce the
Toxin
cost,
doesn't do
but
it.
like, yeah.
No. You're thinking of Beast, which very similar, but now that Beast costs one more.
I'm thinking of Black Swan with Toxin stuff too, but that's
true. Yeah.
Yeah.
But in general, I think what is it? I think that there's going to be a lot of good value in this week, but I think the next week in Spotlight Caches, I think is the week that everyone's going to go for pretty much, right?
Value wise, I believe the next week with Misery, which Misery is a 4/7. Repeat the on reveal abilities of your other cards here, then destroy them.
Yeah, and the reason I want to say the Spotlight Cache, right, is because this is the Nomura and War Machine week. Nomura was a card that I don't know why was slept on when she first came out. She's just a good card.
Clog was everywhere when she came out, just like the Scarlet Spider.
Oh yeah, it's the same argument with people being like, yeah, this card isn't going to be good because deck exists. Okay, the card's still good. It just has a rougher time against this specific matchup, and it still does plenty of other stuff fine. I've made a Widow's Bite to 22 power, something like that, right? Like it's you can do so much good stuff with Nomura. It's great. And then you have War Machine as the other card in this in that list or in that week, right? So this is just if there is a week, right, where this is the week. This is the week where you're spending your keys. You would like if you don't have all of the cards here. I think Misery is the worst one of that week, and I think that's they balance it that way. I have to assume.
Yeah, she's.
Do you want to talk about Misery at this point?
Yeah, I'll talk. So I don't. So this might be one of the weaker cards this season, whether it's Misery or whether it's Anti-Venom. But I think when this card finds the right shell, it's gonna feel really good. I think what it was originally was a 5/10.
You want to say what it is even now, right?
Yes.
Just to make sure it's no.
Yeah, so I'll say it again. It is a repeat the on-reveal abilities of your other cards here, then destroy them. It is an on-reveal 4/7. When it was data mine, it was a 5/10. I think we were all thinking Electro card. Electro into Misery, make Misery go off again. I think you can still use this as a ramp card, but I'm liking the idea of using this to either declog yourself, using it like I think Kosha was talking about in a Darkhawk shell to reactivate your rocks and your Black Widow and your Widow's Kisses and stuff again. You can send goblins back and then they explode. You can also reactivate your hood again to get another demon. So I think you can also use this in destroy for some null value because you're constantly just destroying things. Like it feels like a very interesting, still somewhat niche card. But I think there's a couple different shells you can put this in to get value from it. It's not just one of those cards I'm like, boom, it's going to be one of the best cards this season. I think it's definitely lower on my rankings. I give it more of a 3 out of 5, but I'm very interested to see where this falls.
Now, here's the question I have. When you read this card, does this card, again, abilities are worded weirdly, as we've had with Aranya, right? Does this card, in your opinion, activate, does this card destroy non-on-reveal cards?
No. It only destroys the on-reveal cards.
I think
because it says repeat the on-reveal abilities of your other cards here, then destroy them.
But them are referring to the other cards. And they don't, right? It doesn't say that you don't, it's if it was differently, right? I feel like it's something similar, closer to the way, is it Odin the way that does that? I don't remember exactly. I feel like it's something like, let me pull up Odin if I can pull him up in front of me here. Odin works as, what does he say here? I can do this even, I guess I can't, whatever. But I think Odin very specifically, he just says repeat the on-reveal abilities of your other cards here. If the cards didn't, like he's only trying to target the on-reveal abilities, right? But in general, the thing that I'm focusing on, right, it doesn't say destroy the on-reveal abilities from Misery. It says destroy them. And the only other them here is the other cards. So you have the other cards in general that Misery's targeting. And then if they have on-reveal abilities, they trigger. And then no matter what, all of the other cards are destroyed. I think I'm in the minority in believing this, legitimately. But when I'm reading this, and I've read it multiple times, that makes the most sense to me still, where Misery is going to destroy all cards there, but then the on-reveal cards are triggered first.
What does she do in the trailer?
I don't remember, but I don't think they showed it with non-on-reveal ones. I want to go out on a limb and say that.
I think if she destroys all cards there, that makes this card like way better than she is. But I'm not a believer that she destroys all the cards. I think she only destroys the on-reveal cards. Like a Grandmaster only activates or like reactivates or re-on-reveals the on-reveal cards. It doesn't target any of the other ones. If she does do the other one, I mean, that makes this card way better.
But so the difference between those two, right? Actually, talking about Grandmaster very specifically says move one of your other on-reveal cards here. So he specifies the on-reveal card there because that's what happens. But I don't think she needs to specify because it works for all of those cards.
Well, it says repeat the on-reveal abilities of your other cards here, then destroy them. Right, so if there's no other on-reveal cards here, they don't get destroyed.
I will be happily proven wrong. I think I'm just going to agree to disagree until we see something else with this, or maybe Secretary says something. But I really do think that it actually works with destroying all cards there, which I hope so as well, because it's a good answer to Clog if so. I really would love that bit as well.
It would be interesting if they do that, since it is a symbiote, and it would pay like homage to like Carnage and Venom if it destroyed all the cards.
That's kind of what my logic is too. Yeah, I don't know. But no, I just, for what it's worth, just pulled up the video. They only show on-reveal cards. I wish we had an answer. Maybe there's one by the time this comes out, right? But I think I'm the only one on this train, but I'm going to stay on this train until I'm proven wrong by facts and logic, or Second Dinner tells me to shut up. I think this destroys all cards. And if it does, I love this card. If it doesn't, it's okay. I want to use this in Thanos for what it's worth. I think that's one really fun spot, I think, in general, because I've tried to tech Lady Deathstrike in that list very often, and it's been very middling. Whereas I think with Misery, I think that would be a great place for it.
It's better on curve at a 4-drop than like Lady Deathstrike at a 5-drop.
Yeah, exactly. Your five costs. You're oftentimes, if you can't destroy everything, you're maybe trying to go with even just a blue Marvel, just trying to give everything power. Yeah, something like that. But we'll see how it occurs. I'm hoping for that bit, but also I'll be proven wrong. I'm still excited for this card. I'm less so than the other ones, but maybe we can give like a ranking of how all these cards are at the end of this whole thing. But
yeah, totally. We'll move on to the next one though. The next card I was super pumped about when it first got data mined. Now it's got inside graded, and it's still good, but it's not as amazing as it was before, and we are referring to Scorn, which is going to be a brand new 1-drop they're adding to the game, which is when you discard this card, return it to your hand and give it +2 power to itself and one of your cards in play.
I honestly think Scorn is going to be, when I talk about like cards that are very narrow, right? This is a discard card, but in all honesty, a classic discard list is not where I want to see Scorn. I see Scorn in, what is it? I want to do the Gambit deck, the Gambit combo list, because I've been seeing those lists run the Gambit combo, and if the Gambit combo doesn't work, then they have like a Hazmat or even just like a Silver Surfer combo, and I think Scorn would be an amazing card for that list, because you just give the buff, like, right, if your stuff is going to get discarded, Scorn just keeps buffing everything over and over again, because, right, this isn't going to work as effectively with a MODOK. You want it on its own to get targeted many, many, many times. So Scorn is I really want that to be the place where Scorn works, and I feel like if I'm trying to think of a specific one, it feels like that's just going to be one of the best places at the end, because it just keeps, not only is it going to destroy your opponent's card, let's say it's the last card in your hand, and you've played Wong, you threw Onslaught, then you did Mystique, and then you put Gambit down, last card in your hand to Scorn, that's going to be, you're going to add 32 power to your side of the board and destroy their entire side as well, potentially, as long as there's nothing else stopping you, right? Scorn's a great card. I think going to be potentially one of the best this month.
I think it is a good card. I liked its ability originally when it was data mined, where it was whenever this is discarded, add its power to the side of your board, and then get +1 power, so you could actually thoroughly pump up your Scorn and then add its power consistently. So like you could have added a 3 power, added 4 power, and added 5 power to cards on the board. I do think it could totally work well in the greedy list you're talking about too, the Gambit Cannon. I think it's going to be solid in some classic discard as well. Discarding this just to give power to some of your other cards on the board. Maybe you're going more into a Corvus aspect of this, or maybe you're taking out Swarm potentially too. But like if you were to take out Swarm, you need that extra energy, I feel, to play it on the final turn, so your Dracula doesn't, absorb the Scorn power. But I'm thinking those are like some of the lists, and I'm thinking kind of like an old all stats. Like you're using this with a Silver Samurai to potentially get Dawkin value, or you're using Colleen. Colleen, you're discarding this, getting more power on the board before doing some later plays. I think it's going to be a very interesting but very narrow, like you said, because it's a pretty much discard only card. To see what people can mess around with this. I mean, you could also do this in some like strong guy shenanigans and stuff too. You actually can use Swordmaster with this as well, because Swordmaster is odd cost cards now. But I'm very excited to see how this card actually performs, because this card's been in a pretty solid spot holistically. Not really good, not really bad, but like consistently pretty solid. And I don't know if this is going to be the card that elevates discard in a way to help put it over the top again, which like was why they nerfed Apocalypse in the past, was because of discard. But we'll see. Maybe it does make discard more competitive. And I
think it's going to be. You said not wanting it with Dracula. It's a great card with Dracula, actually, isn't it? Because it would get the +2. It works like Apocalypse there, right? Where let's say you've discarded it 3 or 4 times. Dracula gets to a, let's say Dracula gets to a 110, then it adds another 2 power to another card on the board. That's a 12 power on the final turn. It's a different line potentially than Apocalypse if Apocalypse has been discarded a few times. But like, I think you said no Dracula, but I feel like Dracula is a potential option here as well.
It's not. I still would want Apocalypse more than I would want Scorn. And like you're having to discard Scorn 5 times to be able to get the line you're talking about there.
True.
Whereas like Apocalypse, you discard 1 time and it becomes 12 power, and then you're Dracula 16. But it's not a horrible alternate line as well if you're talking about just adding power to other parts of the board too. It could be if you do brick, you're like, you know what, F it, I got Scorn, and then like you MODOK into Scorn to get some extra power. Could be cool.
No, and this is a week that also has I feel like it's gonna be a good card as well, because again, talking about how I'm pretty sure they build the spotlight caches to make sure they put the good cards with bad cards, or sometimes they do combo cards together, but it's had Sebastian Shaw and Jean Grey in it as the other 2 cards. Very middling cards on their own, and so Scorn feels like, as the other card in this deck, in this cache, feels like it's gonna be a really good card for this specific one. I feel like I pretty much you're only going to want like the last spotlight cache as like maybe a free to play player, unless you really want to do a lot of stuff with discard, or really want to do a lot of stuff with Scream, with like anti-move, or potentially even our next card in Bounce. But
well, we actually have a card before our next card that comes out with a brand new game mode coming out next season, which is going to be Agony. After you play a card here, merge this with it. It's like a stationary kind of Hulkbuster situation, which is actually pretty interesting.
Yeah, and so this, I saw some people talking about this where it's like this like will take any card into itself, right? Is people were saying like you put a bunch of cards on this card and it keeps getting bigger and bigger. That's not how it works, because it's weird, right? But it's when you say, because it says merge this with it, so Agony goes into the card. That's the way Hulkbuster is worded. If it said merge it with this, which is it's a really minute detail, but I want to make that clarification. If it said merge it with this, then you have something closer to what Symbiote Spider-Man does, where the card goes into itself. Yes. So Agony is going to give basically a +2 to the next card you play to her, but then she's going away into that card. That's how Agony works. In case there's a confusion there, because I've seen that question, even though there's confusion around Misery. I really do like Agony. I think Agony's going to be a good card. Is she just better than Hulkbuster?
I think so the difference is Hulkbuster adds 3. So, like, adding that to a Deadpool, your Deadpool turns to 8. I think Agony's better than Forge and Destroy. I think that's the sub. I think you can potentially just go Giga Deadpool, and maybe you see more of the Taskmaster Deadpool plays again, because you're getting Deadpool buffed up so often now and everything. But I think it's a really good Destroy card. I think it's a good Surfer card, potentially, too, just playing your Shaw onto your Agony. I think it's going to be good potentially if you want to play Dawkin. Dawkin with this is solid. It's going to be probably more flexible than we think, but not necessarily like it's super flexible. You can play this in anything kind of situation.
Yeah, I like this. We've talked about it before, but like that hand pump list. It would work very cleanly into that list where you put her like on the final turn, you can drop Mysterio, Shaw, and her. And it's only going to buff the first card you would play to her still, but that would still be if you've buffed her even with like +3, let's say, that's still going to be adding 5 more power to a card. And if you're adding it on Shaw, it's +7. So you do a lot of stuff there.
You could also potentially set this up for the Namora or like a Symbiote Spider-Man Galactus thing. So like you have this on the board, you play Galactus into Agony, and then you have Symbiote Spider-Man to have that go off again. There's a lot of different build-up you can do. You can do this with Scarlet Spider too to get Scarlet Spider to 7 power.
True.
Play this into Kitty Pryde or even into like some Shuri things, Shuri Kitty stuff. It's going to be very interesting just to see what all you can do with this card. Of course, it's Killmonger fodder, but like even like this on a Human Torch. On a Vulture.
It probably isn't, though. I don't think this is Killmonger fodder, because 9 times out of 10, the card goes away.
No, I'm just saying, like, if you don't have priority, like, it can just get Killmonger. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Not like...
Yeah.
But...
No, but I also think it's interesting as a 1 cost that I don't think will get Killmongered, because very rare... I think you can oftentimes just play this in the same turn you want to put stuff into it. You don't really want to show that you're about to, like, do stuff. So it really is just, like, the anti-bit of, like, hey, doesn't matter, this is going to immediately always work. This is one of the ones where I was like, I feel like this could have been an activate, simply put.
Like Aranya.
With this one? Yeah, just like an Aranya, where it's just like the next card, like, what is it? Maybe just even merge this with the next card you play or something like that. I don't know. Maybe it's bad. I have no idea. But like when I look at this after you play a card here, merge this with it, it feels like a really good power, really good ability. And seeing that we both have Scorn and Agony being added this month, some really powerful 1-drops getting added. So it's going to be fun to see.
Yeah, I am excited to see how this works. I'm glad it's a card you can just earn from playing a game mode.
True, it's free. Do you want to talk about high voltage for a second before we go to the next card?
Yeah, we can talk about high voltage.
Yeah, I've got stats over here for it. So high voltage, if y'all don't know how high voltage is going to work, it is a new game mode which is only going to have 3 turns in it. So you thought Marvel Snap was quick. It's going to be even faster. So there will only be 3 turns. Turn 1, you're going to see first location. Turn 2, second location. Turn 3, last location. Then the game ends. That's it. And every single turn, you're going to get a random amount of energy from 2 to 5. Both players are going to get the same amount of energy. You don't have any cubes. You don't snap. It's just boom, 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 quick stuff. This is a temporary game mode that they're going to be having for this month. I'm excited about this game mode in general. I don't know how it's going to go, but again, it just feels like a twist on the formula that I really like. For 1, they removed the snapping, which is cool. And then for 2, it's going to be, again, you get Agony for this for free. And the last card they did for this was Cassandra Nova. And that was already cool. But then Agony also isn't even going to remove a card from the Spotlight caches. We still have another release every single week, which, again, if y'all haven't been counting, that's 7 cards coming out this month. So it's going to be crazy.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. I hope it is like obtainable like Cassandra was. The difference is this only lasts a week, and I believe Cassandra was 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, I think the Cassandra was, I want to say 2, if that sounds correct.
Okay. And I wonder how they do this system. Like, I wonder if it is you have to have voltage points or anything to play games. We'll, of course, see whatever that is when that happens. But I am glad that they are implementing another game mode to be able to get a Series 5 card from that. And this card will be in Spotlights the following week as well, I believe, starting on the 24th.
Collector's Token Shop, not
Yeah,
Spotlights.
not Spotlights. Collector's Tokens. Yes, Collector's Tokens Token Shop on the 24th as well.
Yeah, that's going to be the big question, I think. Like, how do you get stuff? Because honestly, and it's not what I want to see because I'd love to see the game mode work and to have a lot of fun. Are we going to see just win trading again? I'm going to be on, like, I don't want it, but we talked about that before when people were like, when the leagues were first happening, that was just win trading to push everyone up. And whoever did the win trading, they went upwards.
Well, I am actually pro win trading for achieving a new card that's not like detrimental to like, oh, I'm doing this to boost my points so I can get this just resource kind of thing. Like, I want people to have access to cards. Like with Cassandra Nova, that felt good. You know, they're win trading. It was a community coming together kind of thing. Whereas like with leagues, it was like, I'm at a disadvantage right now because I am not doing this. There's no way for me to actually win my league. This is more of an individual kind of thing opposed to a competition. So I'm actually more pro.
By the way, they are bringing leagues back with an exclusive reward, and I'm not excited about that. Honestly.
That'll be a topic for later, but no.
Whenever that occurs. But yeah, so in general, I think Agony's be a lot of fun. So you get however voltage or points in that work, right? However that's going to work. You have to have 8,000 of them to get her. And that's not even the final word. There's like a specific Iron Man variant at the end of the track is what we're seeing here. And to be fair, this is the only card that is not confirmed in its ability. Everything else has been said by Second Dinner. Second Dinner showed this card, but did not say its ability, which is also an interesting thing I wanted to point out, at least in the dev video, which will be, that's interesting to see if that, like, I don't know why they didn't do it. It feels like a weird specification to me, but anyway, I'm excited about Agony. High voltage, I am cautiously optimistic for. Not so much on the leagues, but we don't have to worry about that for now. That's future conversations.
Yeah, I'm excited just for the card acquisition there. And then we do have a brand new card coming out the following week after Scorn, and that is going to be what people might consider their favorite card of the month. It is going to be Toxin. Toxin is a 2/1 on reveal. Return your other cards here to your hand, +2 power for each card returned.
He's going to be good. He's just going to be a good card, right? There's no way that he is not a good card, and I'm excited for it. I think I've played a lot of Bounce. I love this card. I feel like that was a tee up to me when you talk about favorites. I'm super excited by him, and it sounds weird. As someone who I really love the idea of this card, I love more Bounce. I don't know if he's my favorite anymore. I love the openness that Agent Venom and honestly Anti-Venom have, it feels like, in the way that they work. Even if they're not maybe going to be the best cards, I think Toxin's just a good card. Like, straight up, Toxin's a great card. And I know that, and so I'm less excited about it because of that. But all the other cards that we have that we don't know all the specific details about, I'm super stoked about as well, because I just don't know. And it's an open canvas, a blank canvas for however those are going to work, and I love that, and I'm stoked about that as well. So yeah, Toxin's going to be a fun card.
Yeah, this is like the reason why they nerfed Beast, is because they didn't want you to be able to do both of these, and like you can still bounce this back if you need to with Beast and stuff. Like, it's gonna be a really solid card. You're literally combining Beast with Wolfsbane, and Wolfsbane, of course, had been power crept already with Sage, and now you're literally creeping her again with a card that cost an entire cost less than her. So like, this card's gonna be really solid. It's gonna be flexible. You're gonna see it in Bounce. You're gonna see it in Slam. You're gonna see it in all sorts of different shells. The ceiling for this card at minimum is that it at least gets to 7 power. But if you bounce it again, it can get even bigger. But this card's gonna be good. I'm excited for it. It's got Ravonna value too. If you want to do Ravonna things, you can use it in a move. You can do it in regular bounce. Like, it's just gonna be an overall good card. And I think it's what people are saying is the best card this season.
Yeah, for what it's worth, if you're listening, it's a 2/1 that says on reveal, return your other cards here to your hand, +2 power for each return. So yeah, 2/7. I think it's a good card. I don't think this is a bad card in any way. I don't think anyone can look at this card and say this is going to be bad.
Yeah, no.
It's a solid 2-7 at minimum. Or honestly, I say minimum, even though probably you could pull less. Still, it's just good value. Being able to, the list that you're bouncing your cards in, you want to bounce your cards.
Yep.
It also comes out with Elsa and Zabu. Again, feels like a lot of these cards are really good because they're just putting them with really middling spotlights.
Mm-hmm.
Like Zabu is, honestly, I think Zabu's in a better place right now. That's made it sound like he's dead. He's not. I think Zabu's honestly in a place where he's not the best card for cost reduction. I've seen people talking about Zabu where they're like, I really want Zabu to get his love. Like, when's he going to get this change? I don't think he needs one. Honestly, at this point, I said it before where like I really wanted him to get change. He's very comfortable at a niche spot with him. And I think that if he's gets that much better, I think it's a problem. And I like him personally as is.
Yeah, I think he's in a solid spot. I think like the adjustments, like you make the Ravonna comparison, but like Ravonna does actually have some like negative impacts to her. Like if their cards just get a simple buff, like they get extra power, you don't get the Ravonna change. Whereas like Zabu, even if your card got hit with like a buff or anything, or even got hit with like Iceman, it still got that discount from Zabu when it was ongoing and stuff. So I think I'm okay with Zabu as is. Maybe I would love for him to get a change before the new variant comes out in December. But we'll see. We'll see what happens.
If
I don't
Zabu
hate
got
it.
a change, if Zabu got a change, the only thing I'd really say is like maybe he goes to like a 1-2, 1-1. But like I honestly think his on reveal is at a good place right now for the meta.
Yeah.
Like without that, he was dominating everything before, and now he's, again, according to like the Untapped public stats, he's still a B tier card. Which is good.
Yes.
It's not crazy, but it's just a good card. And I love that.
Yeah.
This is a side tangent, but this week's going to be, I think that's a fun one. Speaking of other, I didn't mention it before, but I think Zabu works really well with Wiccan. And when we were talking about high voltage, I think Wiccan decks are going to do good because that also gives you an extra +2 for whatever turns. Because you can potentially play that on turn 1, a Wiccan turn 1, and then have turn 2 and turn 3 to be able to get the extra +2 energy. So you would have more energy than your opponent.
And you have either 2 to 5 energy each turn.
Right?
Yeah.
So you can get 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's a 50. If you have Wiccan in hand, you have a 50% chance to be able to play him on turn 1.
Yeah, it's freaking disgusting.
Yeah. So I think honestly, I think Wiccan's gonna be insane in that mode.
Yeah.
That's where I really want to play him.
You get a high voltage, Wiccan adding energy, just it makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. I'm down. But what's it? I think there's only one other card. We talked about so many during this already, but I think there's only one more card to talk about today.
Yeah, our last card is going to be Anti-Venom, which is a 4/6 Zabu value. On reveal, set the cost and power of your deck's top card to 0. So that means your cost and power of the next card you draw is going to be a 0/0.
This is a good card. I remember I was talking to people and they're like, "This is sucky. Like, why in the world would you use this? Why would you want your card to have nothing, to have like no power?" I'm like, my brother in Christ, do you not imagine Iron Man here, Zola, this feels like such a good. If it's Anti-Venom was like made from like a Mr. Negative working with Venom or whatever. I don't know how, right? And so it really. I love the thematicness of that because it feels like it really is going to work in a very similar fashion to those styles of lists where all the cheap cards that you have currently in Snap, or the low power cards, the ones that are going to be hitting by Ravonna, you love those in this. And so I'm wondering, is this a card for negative?
I think it totally could be a negative card. I think it's going to be one of those cards you build around, and like maybe this is where you actually do have Luke Cage in here because maybe you do want your power to be where it was before. Not saying you have to have Luke Cage. Like there's some instances you're like, okay, well it's 0 powered anyways. I don't really care. Or it's Taskmaster. He's going to copy the power of the last card I just played. But you might get some Howard the Duck value potentially.
No, I was what is it? Definitely thinking of Roby here. This is a Howard card, right? Like this is such a good card with Howard, right? You got you can now use Anti-Venom, Iron Lad, and Jubilee, and you basically just can all 3 of those now. You got a lot of reasons why you're trying to use Howard. And I've already liked Howard inside of like Spectrum lists, and it feels amazing there. So I'm down for this situation as well. He also comes out with Super Giant and Ghost Spider. Super Giant's a card that I feel like if you're using her in a deck, you can't replace her.
Yes.
And Ghost Spider is just a good movement card. And again, I'm not really if you're going to swap her out, it'll be worse. You can technically do it, but it's worse 9 times out of 10. So it's another just honestly solid spotlight week for all these cards here. So it's got me thinking Anti-Venom's going to be a lot better of a card here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think he's going to be a better card. I think, like I said, you just build around this card. I don't think it's like the best card ever, or I think it's going to be like there's potential for this card to be incredible. There's some instances, okay, you hit a bad card. But like in Snap, like you roll the dice. It's an RNG card. If you don't have your Howard down, you don't know what you hit with your top deck. You have options if you're using Untap to be able to see what's still in your deck. But even at the 4/6 stat line, it feels good with its ability. I feel like if you gave this card more power or made it cost less, I feel like that would be an issue. So I like where it's at, and I think this whole season, like you said, like we are in a good spot when it comes to the new cards this season. We're promoting more deck building. It's not necessarily just a plug and chug for all of these. I think like Toxin's going to be more of a plug and chug.
Sorry, I've never heard plug and chug before.
You never heard plug and chug? Oh,
I've never heard plug and chug. That's amazing.
It's a math term. Sorry, but
God, what a nerd.
Yeah, my bad.
I say with my stuff behind me. Anyway.
But no, I'm excited.
In general, I think all the cards this season are going to be a blast. I love it. I think, I don't know. I feel like in general, the cards season are going to be a breath of fresh air. Overall, great. I don't know. What are your top 3 this season? Just maybe not ranking all of them. Just what are your top 3?
My top 3 are probably going to be Toxin, Agony, and probably Scorn or Agent Venom.
Yeah, that's fair. I actually, what is it? Because I think Anti-Venom, Agent Venom, and Toxin are my top 3, and I don't know the order, honestly. I feel like Toxin's probably just up there, but again, it's like I said, it's just less excitement more than like, yeah, I know this is going to be good.
Mm-hmm.
Just makes sense. But I also want to see the other stuff. But no, this is going to be a fun season. I'm hoping for a lot of fun stuff. Like you said, there's now some competition in the mobile gaming field, mobile card collecting gaming field. And I'm stoked about this being a fun season, hopefully to make some good competition with it in mind.
And with that being said, we're going to move on to a brief breakdown of what happened with the OTA, give our thoughts on that, and then we'll dive into some Activate stuff afterwards. But let's go ahead. Since we already talked about Symbiote Spider-Man earlier, he's also a card that did get hit in the OTA in a way that he got buffed from a 4/6 to a 4/7. For these last couple weeks or this last week, really it was, of the Symbiote Spider-Man season, which, he got the extra power. It feels good. All right.
It's fine. I think it's okay. It's weird that like this, I feel like the 4/7 is a very clear instance of just like, I think it's just like, I don't like saying power creep here as much, but it's just like, as gamers, we're getting so much more value out of every single card we play now.
Yeah.
And he wasn't getting value where he was. And it's mainly because like a lot of clog and such, and people are very smart and people understand how to use the metagame very effectively. And I think it makes sense that he got a buff. He was doing really bad win rate wise. And I'm not going to lie, I hope for the next season, even if Age of Venom is a great card, I really want them to go back to, I think they did it once before, where it's like first week and last week, whatever, you just focus on the new card with like the weekend missions or whatever. Playing him every single week, it kind of just burnt me on this card, bro. I'm so over Symbiote Spider-Man. I feel like I tried him everywhere, and it just, there were good lists, but it never felt like using the card. Yay.
And I think what it is, like, opposed to Kate Bishop, opposed to Gwenpool, like, those are the last 2 seasons. Like, this card was very predictable. Whereas those cards, you don't know where the power was going to go with Gwenpool. You don't know what arrows you necessarily got with Kate Bishop. It was a 1 out of 4 or 2 out of 4. So, like, that really set them apart from this card right here. It's like, oh, they're going to be playing something over here. I'm in a clog heavy meta right now. I'm just going to throw Widow's Kiss onto the Scarlet Spider-Man, or I'm going to throw the Kate Bishop arrow. So, like, it was just really, it felt like very counterable, and it felt like it was more like, what should we call it? Scripted. Like, you knew it was going to happen.
Yeah, I think that's a good word for it.
And I think that's really what set this in, like, not a horrible state, but it made this not as great as a card as it could have been. And we'll talk about this more. Like we just talked about Activate a little bit there, but we'll talk about Activate more a little bit later.
Yeah. And I feel like the combo I always saw was Galactus, as we can talk about him. And it was, I think I talked about this, maybe I talked about it on Yap, or maybe I just talked about it in private, but I played a full game, the final round of Gold Conquest, where I was playing against someone who's running a Symbiote Spider-Man Galactus deck. And I was running a deck that had, that had Kate Bishop and such. So anytime anytime I just saw them drop that, and they refused to go for any other combo for some reason. I don't get it. They just didn't go for another combo. I don't know what they were just like, I've got to get this clip. I want to see them kneel. And I never kneeled. And it just shut them down entirely. So I feel like even the combo, right? Because even Galactus got buffed from a 6/5 to a 6/6. They talked about that being a thing where it's like, yeah, we have a lot more 3/5s, 3/5 being closer to like what we want for the 3-cost stat line. So Galactus getting another point of power makes sense. I get it. I don't like it. I get it. But it was a situation where like it just didn't work, and I just thought it was really hilarious every single time just to be able to do that, drop a Widow's Kiss, drop an Acid Arrow, and then just see your opponent retreated, your opponent retreated, your opponent retreated every single time. Because I just held a singular clog card to put in that lane. It was easy. It was fun.
And
but,
it's just scripted. It's just the same thing. You just know when Galactus is coming, and like you have to. It's kind of like with Phoenix Force too. Like you have to min max when you're snapping with this card before you play it. You don't play it and then snap because like that's just not the way it works. But like it's just scripted, and it felt like a lot of these changes in this OTA were for this for the Symbiote Spider-Man just list because we had the Galactus goes to a 6/6. We had the Symbiote Spider-Man go to a 4/7. And then we had Black Panther go to a 5/5.
Yeah. Okay, I've said Black Panther should get a buff. I don't know if I like this direction for just giving him more power base, but yeah, he's better. I don't know. There's nothing really else to say on him, honestly.
Yeah,
he's a better card.
He's Shang-Chi-able now, but
yeah, it's Shang-Chi-able, and I guess maybe it's worse if you argue it on that front. I still think he's better. I don't know. I just think he's a better card, but I just don't think he's still a good card.
No, he's just okay. He hasn't been good since the old Wong. I mean, people are still doing the Wong Black Panther Zola things, but like, it's so scripted. But it's like and it gets hella. It's good because like they don't have any way to stop your Black Panther really. But like,
yeah. And I think that's the thing I don't feel like people understand enough, honestly, about Snap oftentimes, where they see a combo like Black Panther, or they see the Galactus thing, or even just like the Hela stuff, and then they're just like, well, they just stay in the game still for some reason. And people don't know how to retreat.
Yes. It's
so much of the strength of the game, so much of the knowledge of the game that a lot of Snap creators you'll see know is by looking, and the best way you could improve your own skills is if you look at cards, just a few, and if you understand the deck that you're playing against based off that information, you can do so much better. So if I see my opponent play Psylocke, Wong, Gwenpool, I'm expecting the Black Panther, Symbiote Spider-Man, Galactus deck.
Yes.
And it's that, and I have it in mind, and I'm ready against it. And I play as if I'm playing against that immediately. And it's just a knowledge of like keeping that stuff in mind. And so Black Panther is still just predictable. And having that predictability is just like, okay, I guess he's there. It doesn't do anything, I still think. It's just like, yeah, it's going to be better. Do you want to talk about the other, like the move cards that I guess really got buffed, but I still don't think it does anything still?
So Hercules also got a buff. It went from a 3/4 to a 3/5. Woo!
Cool.
Yay! Go Hercules!
Yeah. And then Kraven got one to be a 2/3.
Yep.
And I think
this is
the
better,
reason
though.
why I think
a little bit,
maybe. But I think the reason why these happened, and I think this season at the end of it proved that move as a deck is still not great. But people running a little bit of a move package with like the Dagger, Madam Web, Ghost Spider inside of a deck that isn't a formal move deck, maybe even just like a clog list or or I've seen like the Phoenix Force lists that are not strictly move have done so much better because of the other cards that we have. And so stuff with like Kraven and things, those require a move centric deck, or maybe that'll work well inside of that like Scream package. But in general, I feel like those Hercules those Kravens aren't great because move decks aren't great.
Yes. No, I agree. I think it's like the amount of brain power you have to use to play a lot of these move lists too, and it's like snapping your conditions, min maxing and everything too is definitely one of the main things. Like, I mean, Sizer's been doing great with a move list, and that's the move list I've seen everywhere. But it has Eliath and it has Cosmo in it because they're adding tech cards in the move shell to account for all the other archetypes, like whether it's Clog or whether it's Hela, which is like what you're saying. It's not a pure move shell that is doing really well. It's more of a hybrid or a move with extra tech steps that's really allowing you to elevate that. So they wanted to hit some focal cards, I would say, with like quotation marks, as in Kraven, because they've not been seeing a lot of Kraven in a lot of these move lists because you're cutting this for just extra movement cards, whether it's Aranya, Nico, or like Ghost Spider. And then you have Hercules as well, but you're seeing more Hercules in like the Tribunal version, but you're having to have Tribunal in this list so you have enough power to cover every lane instead of just winning that one lane with a Human Torch.
Yeah.
So
I feel like it's just really, it's showed the way move works as a deck.
Yes.
Doesn't, but I love the idea of it just being a package that is added. I think that is when the season happened, I was excited to see moves resurgence.
Yes.
And I don't know if I want to say a resurgence was what occurred. I think it was a definition of move. Move's best place, in my opinion, from what I've seen this season, is not in a move centric list. It's in a list that uses move as additional power.
Yeah.
And I think we were already seeing a little bit of that, like I said, with the Clog, with maybe using Ghost, with using Dagger at the end of it, but especially with Madam Web and Aranya being able to give us a little bit of more options there. It really shows that, and with the Sizer list, shows that you really want to be able to use other things rather than focusing everything onto directly move, and that's it. Yeah. So I'm down with that.
And then the next change we had, we have three more changes, I believe.
4 more.
We have
4 more. Negasonic change right is the one I'll tee up.
Yeah.
So she got to a 3/3 instead of a 3/2. She was really only being used inside of, I liked her inside of the list that I had her use a couple seasons ago to hit Infinite with Hydra Bob, where you're just trying to get priority. She's fun there still. It's just a better card now, slightly better. It's just, I saw Cam Best talk about it, where he's like, it's a point of power that's free to give. Okay.
Yeah, it just, all right, this card got an extra buff.
That's the same thing as Kraven and a lot of the Kraven and Hercules, technically even Galactus, but I don't like it still. But yeah,
and Symbiote Spider-Man.
Yeah. And then the last buff.
Oh yeah.
So this is a buff, right? This is just a buff.
Yeah, because Hela decks were not running Luke Cage already. You know.
Yeah. No. They gave themselves a knob when they made Hela bring back the cards with negative power, and that's a great knob. But now they're running Luke Cage, and the knob doesn't matter.
Yep.
and so at the very minimum, if they had just said -3 power, I would have been like, okay, it's just a little bit. They've said before that Hela isn't over dominant in the metagame. It's still just a good deck. It's just a card. It's a deck that enough of the player base plays that it's just like, it's not great win rates, but second dinner's okay with it. Okay, sure, whatever. If they had just given the -3, it would have been fine. It would have just brought it down a little bit more whenever you don't get the Luke Cage. But giving Hela the point of power just feels like a slap in the face. It's better.
Yep.
You just are forced to run Luke Cage now. And if you don't get Luke Cage, you retreat. It just creates even more of a location or an information imbalance, where if your opponent knows that they have the Hela, they have the Luke Cage, they can do this stuff, they're okay with it. And if you don't know that, you don't know if you should be staying in or not. And it's just, Hela, I think, is part of the reason why I think the meta has felt very stale. Even if she is not the strongest deck, she's just...
Well, 3 out of 5 of the main Infinity Conquest decks right now are Hela, and they all have over a 60% win rate. That does not guarantee you're getting a border with Hela, but that is just showcasing how many people are just playing this in Infinity Conquest right now, even with Clog being everywhere too. It's just crazy. It just feels bad. And like when we talk about the activate cards, well, we have a really good understanding on why it is. But it's just, you can't account for the Hela, where the cards are going to go. And that's because you don't have lockdown cards anymore. Like Professor X doesn't really exist. and Professor X was the main counter you had during the Hela, matchup and everything too. You're able to use Cannonball better. You could use Alioth. That's why you're seeing a lot of resurgence of Alioth too and Cosmo things. But this change overall really didn't feel like a change. It felt like, okay, well, now I forget every game that Hela has 7 power instead of 6 power, so I even just lose the location they play Hela on.
Yeah, it's I don't know. You talk about feels bad. That's it right here.
And then,
at least it's just, I don't know. I was gonna say I was making a joke about at least Cerebro 7 now you can do, but it's not even.
no,
a thing.
but like what's worse now is like they're like, okay, well, Hela's not really that big of an issue, but we're gonna take away power from Marvel Boy because Zoo is just way too good right now.
I can kind of think Marvel Boy's good, but like I don't know. Hela getting a point of power and Marvel Boy lose point of power doesn't feel right. If Hela had not gained any power, I would have been like, sure, Marvel Boy's a great card in that list. I can see you wanting just to knock him a little bit, sure. But then, the Hela getting power on top of it is just, I don't know. This is one that, like I said, I feel like this is a. Honestly, I don't like it, but I'm fine with it. I get why he got a hit.
Yeah.
But that's in a bubble. But then you put the Hela gaining power in that bubble, and now all of a sudden my bubble's popped. I don't get it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like I know Zoo is really good, and it's one of those most consistent under the radar lists right now. And Marvel Boy is incredible in that list, giving that 1 power to all the other cards. I don't hate the change to make him a 3/1. I just wasn't too thinking it was like warranted.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to put it. It's just like this change didn't feel warranted. Sure, I can agree.
Yeah.
But it didn't feel warranted when we have the meta we have.
Yeah, I was like, okay, that's that.
This is one that I will say, like this one at least I get. This one's fine. I get it, 100%.
Yeah,
4/6 as being a vanilla stat line is, and then he was only just a positive with that, and he had the ongoing ability. Okay, I get this one. I'm fine with this change.
Yeah,
because honestly, I'm even using this list against Hela. I'm using a list that actually uses both It's really annoying. I built a list that plays Marvel Boy and War Machine to counter a Hela. I do the whole Storm Legion combo thing because it's a difficult combo, and Legion's just a great card in general. But then they buffed Hela and nerfed 2 of the cards in my deck I made to nerf to stop Hela. So I felt personally attacked by this OTA.
They saw your list and they said, we have to change this right now. We can't let Dance keep getting away with this.
It was not, I don't know. I think hopefully they take care of Hela, because I feel like if Hela just keeps running rampant, it's just gonna, we talked about it at the beginning, right? Where I want there to be competition between these like mobile TCGs, and if Hela's gonna keep running rampant, I'm 90% certain we're gonna be seeing a lot more stuff into Pocket and less people being interested in Snap, because I mean honestly, the meta, which is partially because of Hela, has kind of killed my enjoyment of Snap right now, which is why I'm excited about the next season, because I want to be excited about stuff again. I've been playing so much Pocket, so yeah.
Yeah, we'll see what happens, and they're supposed to be like adding packs and stuff to Snap too. That was also data mined, so we'll see what that looks like if they're trying to do that to kind of promote. Oh, we can also open packs, kind of thing. But that's a conversation for another day when we actually get more data mine info about that. That's just like a rumor at the moment. But that's the OTA that we have. So we're gonna take this time now, and we're gonna talk about Activate. Then, of course, like I said, we are now going to be talking about Activate, and just glancing at the stats right now on screen, and kind of going back off the Hela thing, only one card in this list has over a 50% win rate, and it has the second lowest popularity. Actually, post Infinite, by the way, that's going to be Hellcow, which I think is probably the best change, and of these, dare I say, the best Activate card of Activate cards right now.
I think Hellcow's the best Activate card in terms of Activate cards. The win rate, it's the only card that's doing positive in win rate and cube rate. It is the best Activate card, but other than that, we've had 4 other activatable cards, and it's a shame, right? You got to do, we hinted at it last week. We didn't talk about this yet, but you got to do the video for Scarlet Spider, the official video on the Marvel Snap YouTube channel, which y'all didn't see it. Y'all should go check that out. Tucker, it will put a link in the description because I said it now. But Scarlet Spider was the card that came out last week, and it's really, really middling. It's a card that I'm like, I know in the past, content creators have been like, wow, this ongoing should be an on reveal. Oh, this on reveal should be an activate. This activate, I think, should be an on reveal.
Yeah, it feels more like something that needed to be like a Doom. Like, it felt cool, you know, like, oh, Scarlet Spider. We love Scarlet Spider. Our boys finally getting added to the game. But it's like this. It's one of those situations, kind of like Nomura. This card has been added to the game at the wrong time. With the state of the meta right now. And then, like, to make this card good, you kind of have to be greedy. Or, like, you have to put it in a shell that was already good, and you maybe swap out a card that is just better. Like, it's just one of those, like,
but then you make the deck worse.
Yeah. Like, it's just...
That's the problem.
Really major feels bad. It has the worst cube rate. It has the worst win rate. It's just... It's really, really, really sad. And, like, we love Scarlet Spider, but it's, like... Playing activates on 4, unless they really are helping you at the end of the game, feels like it's a little bit too late. Whereas Hellcow, you're playing on 4 in the perfect slot, because you can play discard cards in Hell on 4 totally, but like just throwing the Hellcow down just feels good. Throw in the Scarlet Spider down, your opponent's like, well, let me just account for everything else now and do things there. For that, and like you have to kind of be greedy. You have to buff Scarlet Spider. You're adding 5 power, but like, would you rather have done something different with your turn 4? Maybe you're playing a Gwenpool instead, or maybe you're playing like a Jubilee instead, or setting stuff up more opposed to just relying on one card to carry you.
And also the fact that it needs to be revealed in order for it to work.
Yeah.
It also always, like, if you don't play it on 4, if you don't, like, again, we're talking about Scarlet Spider, Symbiote, and Hellcow. If you don't play it on 4, then you feel like you're crippling your turn 5, because then you have to put a 1 cost down with your 4, because otherwise you're just buff. Like, there's just it's why that I feel like we're talking about this today, because at this point we're seeing 5 examples of activate right now that we've had this month. This was a season where they brought in a brand new mechanic, a brand new ability, activate, and the only times where I feel like it's been kind of good are the cards that you actually want it to trigger at a later time.
Yes.
Symbiote Spider-Man is that place where you would maybe want to trigger at a later time. You want to control when it occurs, the next thing. Or even if it was the ability of Agony, though, where it just triggered the next time you played a card there, the card would be better.
Yeah.
And that's even if it's better, it's a different card then. So it doesn't work. But then Hellcow, discard loves being able to make sure you don't lose the cards at an earlier time. So Hellcow being an option at the end of the game makes sense, but Scarlet Spider, I don't want to activate it later. I get it's like a 4/5 right now, but I want to make sure I'm getting the most amount of value possible. And the only time I'm really seeing Scarlet Spider do that is in that Nomura shell, which is super susceptible to anything like Shang-Chi with Shadow King and stuff like that. And then you just lose the whole ability for that thing, and it doesn't work anymore. And then you have Aranya, at least. I think Aranya is one of the better, even though she's not doing as well here. I feel like Aranya is one of the better ones, because you can still you can play it on turn 1, and then you have the rest of the game to basically do whenever you would like.
Yeah. No, like Aranya and Black Swan, both of those cards are the two that I feel like I can activate these either on my turn 2 with Aranya, or like I'm either activating Black Swan on my turn 5, or I'm activating her on turn 4. Like, you have just more say-so, I feel. And the only way to offset Aranya is to, Killmonger her or to Red Guardian her. Same with Black Swan. Black Swan, you can only Red Guardian this card for it to not work. But like, it feels like you have more say-so, and I actually get to do this when I want to do. Yes, and I can you have control of where cards are going to move with Aranya. And like with Black Swan as well, you have control on what cards you're going to play that get affected. Symbiote Spider-Man gets affected when my opponent throws a lower cost card than what I was trying to activate. Scarlet Spider gets affected if someone clogs a lane, or they, like you said, they Shang-Chi your Scarlet Spider you set up with Nomura things. Like, it feels like Hellcow, Black Swan, and Aranya, and I'll group those 3 together, even though they have different win rates. Aranya, move isn't a good spot, but it's not a very easy list to play. You do a bunch of math. It's susceptible to all the Shang-Chi and the Shadow King right now. But like, you can activate those on your own terms, and it doesn't feel like they just get countered by cards coming over to your side of the board, or like getting hit with a Cosmo or like stuff like that. They just feel like actually controllable cards. And just basing off Aranya Black Swan, you can play earlier, like you're saying. Playing stuff earlier. Like, you're getting Scarlet Spider value if you maybe Zabu him out earlier. Or, like, you Psylocke to get either one of those cards out earlier. That's, like, the best way to play them because, like you said, if you miss that turn 4, it's just a major feels bad because you're like, well, I put this card on the board. I got to find some way to activate this now on turn 6. Like...
Yeah, and then if you have it in your hand on turn 6, you're like, well... got this card now.
Yeah.
It does nothing. And I honestly still disagree that Black Swan's even good. I think that, yes, she has better cubes and win rate than other cards here, but also I think it's because that she's played so little that people who are better at this game than the majority of the player base are playing her in those lists, and she probably would be better with a different card, in my opinion. I think a lot of places have seen like the her inside of a bounce shell. I think Wiccan does better 9 times out of 10 nowadays. So it's just the only card I'll disagree with is Black Swan, but I do think Hellcow currently and Aranya are the best activate cards we have. And the fact that we're not getting any cards in this upcoming season for that as well, it feels like they're just... And I know that they predetermined all this stuff and they see it in advance, so they didn't just see the reaction to this season and then decide what cards they were coming out. But it really feels like they just are immediately giving up on this brand new thing. It's not even an ability you can search for in the game. You can't search for an activate. You can search for an on reveal. You can search for an ongoing. And I'm pretty sure if you search for an on reveal, at least at one point it did. I don't know if it still does, but I think it used to show still Hellcow in that list. And I don't think it does anymore. But that's like it goes into the point of where like I really feel like these cards, yes, they do something different now, and maybe they are. Like Hellcow and Aranya are the ones, everything yes, this is the card that is good as an activatable card. It's a thing you want later on. I think Black Swan potentially could. I don't think her stat line currently works there. But Symbiote Spider-Man and Scarlet Spider, I think, are two cards that are really saying like, this is not helpful right now. And you don't want this. And a different point, which is something you're talking about with getting countered, the only way you can counter the majority of these cards, other than Aranya, is Red Guardian. And so having a brand new ability that most of the cards in the game can't interact with, like it's either that or I guess you get deep spaced, right? That's it. And so it's kind of just like, all right, I have to hope for this. Maybe, I don't know. I'm trying to think of the other counters you can maybe exist. A location that destroys stuff. Lady Deathstrike is an option. I don't know but I'm looking at these cards. I'm just like, this just doesn't. It's why we're talking about this. Is Activate good?
Holistically, no. Activate's not good.
I think it's done when very carefully. I think, like I said, I think Hellcow and Aranya, I can see the argument for Black Swan, but I won't argue that. I think Hellcow and Aranya, when you actually have a reason to wait on that, I think it works amazingly there. I think that is a place where you want to see these cards exist. And then it works really well, it works really effectively, and it has a reason for doing what it does. But without it, when you've just got Aranya and when you have Scarlet Spider sitting in your hand, the amount of times I want to buff my stuff up and I have to be like, well, I have to take this turn 4 and play him now, or else my turn 5 is screwed, and I can't play him on turn 6, so I've got like 2 turns, or I have to ramp him early. It just, maybe it's the 4 cost as well. Maybe that's a problem here too.
I'd love to see him in Surfer at a 3 cost.
I feel like that's what I hear everyone saying, and I'd agree. I think you make him a 3/4, and he's fine. And I'd love to see that world where that's something else. Symbiote Spider-Man, it's still not good. Maybe it exists for those Black Panther Galactus lists that's been going around, sure. But like, it just really pushes onto the fact that I really feel like these cards, this ability, isn't working. And I don't know if it will. I think you need to have a reason, like a time when you want that to trigger, and that's when you need it to work. That's when the card really works. Like, honestly, I think some Guardians. Imagine if you could just put down a preemptive Guardian and let it sit there, and so you could just have it ready. And then imagine like imagine a world, and it's not a thing, but imagine a world where all the Guardians were activates, right? Throw down Red. I throw down Rocket. I throw down what is it? I throw down who's his face? I throw down Daredevil. Throw down Groot. and then maybe some other things that stop people from playing, or maybe a Jean Grey at that point, and just set up, and then you can use it to know when, like, hey, they are clogged now, they have to play here, or there's an ongoing at other locations, they have to, like, whatever you need for that little bit. So at least it could be some sort of, I don't know. It's just situations where it just feels like this is not, it's just not needed here.
I like that idea,
and
actually.
Yeah, I just think it's the biggest thing is just needed, and it's not. No, it's not needed for these cards. The only one is, I think Hellcow is needed. Aranya's good. Aranya could be a free card or a on reveal, and she would still be fine. But everything else is just, I just don't know if it's needed. I'm sorry, I'm just using that word over and over. It's just like, I don't know. I was so excited for this new ability, and it just feels that it came into the game and it's here.
Yeah, and I think, like, I was excited. I was like, oh, people are going to build new decks. You're going to have a brand new season. And we're going to have all this. And people built new move shells, and that was really cool. People started playing Hella again. That wasn't really cool. You know, Clog is still everywhere and has not been adjusted at all because of all the Hella stuff that was going on. And just Erishim made Clog go up. You know, Erishim we're not seeing as much anymore, which I like. But Clog just remains as dominant as is because I guess the stats just aren't adding up for Clog to be afflicted with anything. But that's going to be the general gist of what we got with the Yap for today. This is episode number 8 of Yap. This has been freaking incredible. Dance, you got any closing remarks?
No, I'm sorry. Sorry, it's ending on maybe a more sour note, but still, it's like I'm to put it back at least on a light one. I'm stoked about the new season. I think the new season's going to be great. I think it's going to be, I just feel like I think it's going to be incredibly fresh, and every single card has a lot of use cases and a lot of really awesome places for it to be. So if y'all want to see the best places for those to be, y'all should be subbed to this YouTube channel, youtube.com/@Tucker, where you're going to be seeing all of these brand new decks, all the best ways to be using all these new cards as Tucker's moved over hurricanes, and kittens are mostly growing up, so he isn't dealing with all the life stuff anymore, and he can actually put some more content out here for y'all. So if y'all aren't subbed here, you should. Otherwise, oh, he's still got kittens. Never mind, they're still adorable. Otherwise, y'all should be following his Twitch Tucker as well, and his Twitter. It's Tucker everywhere. So be sure to follow him on all those places so you can be seeing the latest of cooks and ideas and just the content from this guy as well, because he's awesome.
Yeah, but before you do that, I need you guys to be following Dance on all of his socials. Twitch.tv/notmydance, youtube.com/@notmydance, twitter.com/x.com/notmydance, all of those platforms as well. Also an amazing streamer, does Snap as well as some variety here in this as well. He also does a lot of off-meta cooks. Great dude, great vibes. My favorite co-host, yeah, my only co-host, by the way, too. But yeah,
if it helps, you're also my favorite co-host. No one tell him, but he's also my least favorite. Don't tell him that bit. He's the only one. I'm sorry, he's the only one. I swear.
But anywho, thank you guys so much for watching. We can't wait for next episode of Marvel Yap. We'll be going over what we hope we get in the next OTA, as well as a brief review of Scream and Agent Venom and a preview of Misery. But yeah, we appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for watching and listening. I was combining both those words together. And until the next time, you guys have a good one. God bless and laters.